Okay, here we are. I'm going to do a brief intro to what you are about to see. This will be the Every Bit Counts challenge from August 16th through the 22nd. We had some things came up that kept my husband home all week, and so things got a little bit jumbled. I am splicing together many segments. I'm hoping that I get them in the right order. If I don't, I apologize. You'll probably be able to tell if I don't, because either my wardrobe will change or I'll be referencing something that just isn't in the right order. But we did get a little something done each and every day, and we'll continue to do so until the end of the month. We may or may not miss a couple of days because we've got some family stuff coming up, hopefully. But that is just what it is. Like, if we're gone, then we aren't going to be preserving food. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the week's worth of content that I have coming up for you. And don't forget, we have our Sandor Cat's Fermentation Journeys book giveaway. I will link the video below that you need to watch to enter that contest. You will subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on that video, and on September 1st I will be choosing a comment at random from that video using Comment Shark. I'm going to try to figure out how to do that as a live so you can see it choose in real time for transparency. Anyways, enjoy what's coming up and have a great day. Alrighty, so we had dehydrated various goodies, and I wanted to show you how I do the tomatoes. So these are dried crispy. I am going to put them in this jar. And cover them over with, I have onions and stuff in here too, so we will put those in. I have an onion jar already going, but this is about the tomatoes. So let me set this over here. I'm going to just pile the tomatoes in this jar, and then I'm going to pour olive oil over it. You want like a decent olive oil. I mean, I never go too expensive. This was one I got at Trader Joe's. But you want one that is good enough that you enjoy how it tastes, that you eat with it. You know, I have cheaper ones that I use, you know, when a recipe calls for a cup of oil or something like that. So that's not what this is. Although this wasn't terribly expensive. I think it was still maybe like $15 for the bottle, and it's not a very big bottle. You know, I'm used to getting the big ones at Costco where you get 3 or 4 times this much for a few dollars more. Okay, those are peppers. I think there's more tomatoes in here. Yes. So a lot of these were cherry tomatoes, and they work great for this because one of the things that we like to do with these is put them on pizza. So the cherry tomatoes work really, really well for that. Okay. And then I will let these sit out on the counter for probably 4 to 6 hours. And then I will put it in the fridge. In the fridge, it will last almost indefinitely. And then 2 things happen here. The oil will kind of make the tomatoes get back to a leathery consistency,
more like a sun-dried tomato. But this tomatoes are also infusing this olive oil. So if you want to use the olive oil when you're done with the tomatoes in a salad dressing or a marinade, would be really good. You can reuse the olive oil too. So, like, I have more tomatoes here, and I will put them in a jar or a Ziploc bag or whatever to keep them crisp until I'm ready to use them. As we eat these down, I can put these in there to get them that leathery texture and consistency that you want in a sun-dried tomato. So yeah, there's what we have going on. Kind of a fun way to use up some tomatoes, and kind of a different way than just your typical salsa, tomato sauce, etc. I mean, I will make those things as well, but this is a fun one that we enjoy having on hand.
On this day, I had decided I wanted another dehydrator full of the tomatoes. I had previously packed some in olive oil and decided I didn't have enough to get through a year. So I was going to dry some more tomatoes. So I am just slicing them up here for the dehydrator. I had opted to not live narrate this video. My husband was home that day. Star Trek was blaring in the background, and I just wanted to save you all from that. I did both large slicers as well as cherry tomatoes. Our tomatoes are not coming on fully yet, so I didn't have enough to do sauces or salsa. So I decided to just go ahead and dry these up, as well as enjoying some for fresh eating. I may actually still do a few more sliced with garlic powder and Italian seasoning, because I do enjoy eating them just crispy as a snack. If I remember correctly, here soon I put this in hyperlapse so we can get through the cutting process. Partway through, I do run out of tomatoes that are cut up, or that are picked, so I do make a run out to the garden just to pick enough to finish filling the dehydrator. Even now narrating this, I am outside where I thought it would be quiet. I don't know if you guys can hear the birds that are going crazy in the background or not. I am adding this voiceover in Instagram, and I'm not sure if it's going to let me do the whole thing. Here we go, hyperspeed. And our trip out to the garden, that the camera's not tilted, just the tomato cages there. On the other side if I showed you the backside, you would actually see where a spaghetti squash had crawled up in there and is weighing the tomato cage down on the other side. That there, I poured myself a glass of our fermented lemon whey punch. It is actually quite refreshing. A little tart, not too sweet, really nice. Hey there, I am here for part of the Every Bit Counts challenge. You can probably hear my dishwasher running in the background. I apologize. I do have a microphone coming next week. This isn't the usual content that people post for this. It's usually, garden stuff, canning, that kind of thing. But we got a good deal on ribeyes. So I am going to be vacuum sealing those for the freezer today. I'll just walk you through how I do one, and you'll get the gist from there. We have a Food Saver brand, Food Saver. Oh, I already sealed it. So now I just need to cut the bag to size. We put the steak in. These steaks are actually already frozen. We bought them in a different town when we were visiting. So we threw them in the freezer of our camp trailer, and so they're already frozen, but they're still in the store packaging, and I want them to be vacuum sealed. Whoops, I don't know, I might have cut that bag too small. Let's see. Looks like it's working. And now it's sealing. And that's it. I've got about 12 more of these to do. I'll get them labeled. And they will be ready for the freezer for all those special occasions that my husband wants ribeye. Have a good day. Hi there. We are finally getting around to tackling our apple pie filling. I will be following the recipe from the National Center for Home Food Preservation. It gives the quantities for 1 quart or 7. I am not sure how many quarts of apples I will have. I have 2 tubs like this that I am going to peel, slice, and then put into this lemon juice water solution just to prevent browning. So I will probably measure out how many apples I have after, so I know how to scale the rest of the recipe to get as many jars as we can get. This is really the only plan I have for these apples, because we still have apple juice and apple sauce still left from last year. So I am going to just go ahead and get these peeled and sliced. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to save my apple peels for apple scrap vinegar or not, or if I am going to just compost them. I haven't decided. I will keep them as if I'm going to do apple scrap vinegar until I decide for sure. I still have some, so I don't know that I need another batch this year. So I'll just play that by ear. But for now, I'm going to get these peeled and sliced.
Okay, so we got the first tub peeled. Husband came in and helped me get them done. I still have another tub almost that full to do, but I wanted to measure these out to see how much we have, because there's not a lot of point in peeling more than what will fit in my first canner load. So I'm going to drain these, measure them, and see how many we have. To get 7 quarts of pie filling, we want 6 quarts of apples, which is a canner load. So that would be 24 cups. I don't remember how big this bowl is. I don't think it's that many. So we'll probably have to do the other one, but I will measure these out and we will find out. Okay, so I got that measured out and we are almost to the 6 quarts, but this tub was not as full as I thought it was, and it looks like some of these have quite a bit of bug damage. So I'm going to go ahead and just do up the rest of these, and if we end up with 8 quarts, I think that that will still fit in my biggest water bath canner. So I'm going to go ahead and get these peeled up, and I will come back when we're finished. Okay, so we are back. That ended up making about 8 quarts of apple slices. So I am going to have to scale this recipe accordingly, which will take a little bit of math. But basically the rest of the process, I'll kind of tell you what it's going to be because it's hard for me to film at my stove. I am going to boil the fruit 6 cups at a time for just 1 minute to blanch them, and drain them but keep them heated in a covered pot. So, you know, they don't have to be chilled like a lot of times when you blanch and you take it from boiling water to ice water. You don't do that with these, you just let them stay warm in a pot. Then I'm going to combine sugar, clear gel, and cinnamon in a kettle with water and apple juice. I have home canned apple cider, but I think I also have some store-bought, so I will probably just use that because I don't know why I have it. I think I bought it specifically for a function or a recipe and didn't end up using it. So I think I will use that to get it used up because it's probably nearing its expiration date. And then lemon juice, let's see. Combine sugar, clear gel, and cinnamon in a large kettle with water and apple juice. If desired, food coloring, we won't do that, and nutmeg may be added. Stir and cook on medium-high until the mixture thickens and begins to bubble. Add the lemon juice and boil 1 minute, stirring constantly, and then you fold in the drained apples. I have done pie fillings many times, and once that clear gel, the goo, is thick, folding in the fruit is not always an easy task. And then it says, you know, immediately put into jars without delay. It is because it solidifies pretty quickly, and you will end up with a lot of air pockets in your jars if you don't get it in there while it's still kind of somewhat of a liquidy form. You want to leave a full 1-inch headspace. Usually when I have any kind of issues with lid failures, 9 times out of 10 it's pie filling. So I have started going like 1.25 inch headspace, and that has helped a little bit. Nobody cares when we have a lid failure because that just means I make a pie right away. But if it's more than one, it's kind of a pain. I don't know that that's ever happened where I've had more than one lid failure in a batch, but anyway, so I'm going to go off camera, figure out this math. I need to increase everything by like 1/3. And then I will hopefully bring you along for a few of the steps that I can do either one-handed with the camera or here at this counter. maybe actually putting it in the jars I can do over here. If I put a hot pad down, that should be fine. So yeah, we'll try to bring you along for as much of it as possible, but that is the recipe. It is from the National Center for Home Food Preservation. This is available online. It is a safe, tested recipe, so you don't have to worry about, botulism or foodborne illness, as long as you follow these instructions. Back soon. Okay, so we have our cornstarch and sugar goo here, super thick. The recipe says to fold the apples into it. All these apples won't fit into this pot, so I'm going to bring the goo to the apples. And see if I can do it without making a huge mess or burning myself. It's always a plus. Alright, I want all of this out of here because that is what is going to give our pie a nice set when we bake it. I like a nice slice of pie that holds its shape and doesn't just turn into a puddle of goo on your plate or bowl. Alright. I'm going to do my best to get this folded in all the way to the bottom. Make sure that all the apples are coated. Might take a bit. It smells really good. That cinnamon and nutmeg. I've got my hot water bath canner heating on the stove. I will fill jars to 1.25 inch headspace. I will do wide mouth jars for this just because it's easier to get them filled, debubbled, and clean when you're using them. It looks really nice. Can you see that? Nice shine to it. This will hot water bath process for, I believe it's 30 minutes at my elevation. I am over 1,000 feet, so I do need to add time when I can. Time or pressure, depending on what kind of canning I'm doing. Okay, I think that is pretty well. I'm scraping off the bottom and I'm not seeing any naked apples come up. So I am going to go ahead and get set up with some jars and we'll get this jarred up. Okay, I've got my canning funnel here. That should help make things stay a little cleaner. It is thick. So I know some people don't like clear gel. It is a food starch. I do use it because it is what is considered the safe and approved method for preserving pie filling at home. You're not supposed to use other thickeners like cornstarch or flour, that sort of thing, in home canning. So I do this. There are other canners out there and here on YouTube that will use arrowroot powder, I would say just do your own research. I have previously been a master food preserver for my county, and so I just can't in good conscience tell you to do anything other than what's approved. But just because things, I will say, just because something's not approved doesn't mean it's not safe. So, and I do think it's important to know how other things are done, even if it's not the way you are planning on doing it. Because we don't know that we'll always have the option of doing things a certain way. Things happen and things change. So I like to kind of find out old traditional ways, even if they aren't necessarily considered safe anymore. I don't usually practice them, but it's nice to know. But this is the, official, safe, tested, approved apple pie filling recipe. This can be done in pints or quarts. I always do my pie filling in quarts. And even then, if it's a deep dish pie pan, I still sometimes wish I could have had more in the jar. So, times that it's nice to have smaller batches is if you want it for other things like a dessert topping, maybe to put on a cheesecake or sundaes or something like that. Then you might want to opt for the pint-sized jars. When you buy a jar of apple pie filling in the store, it's more like a pint-sized jar, but I have found if I've ever had to do that, I like to have two. And then you're talking $8 to $10 a pie, because those little jars are $4 or $5. And don't know about the ingredients. They're usually lacking in the amount of fruit that they have. So that's why I like to do things myself. I know these apples were not sprayed with pesticides, which was very apparent when I was cutting them up. I know where they came from. My sugar, it's still sugar. This is still a sometimes treat, but my sugar is organic cane sugar, not, highly processed white beet sugar or whatever, whatever they pass as sugar. All of those things are safe to use in this, but I do like that I can, have better ingredients. I can use the juice from my apples. I can do all those things. So I did look at my canner, and I do think it's only going to fit 7 of these, and I think I'm going to end up with 9. Because you're supposed to do it all while it's hot, I will either do up 2 jars and just throw them in the fridge and make a couple pies over the next week or 2, throw it in the freezer and make a pie some other time at my leisure, or start a second smaller pot and just throw these in. Because I could fill this with water, as long as your jars can be covered by 1 inch of water and you have a lid for it. Any pot can be a hot water bath canner. You do want to put something in the bottom. If you have a canning rack, you can do a canning rack. If you don't have a canning rack, you can even just put in a towel. I even have some little silicone things that can go in the bottom that came with my Instant Pot. Any of that will work, just to put a layer between your jars and the very bottom of the pot that's on the heating element. This is looking really nice. I am really happy with how this is turning out. I did some blueberry pie filling this last winter from frozen blueberries, trying to get them used up, and oh, it was so thick, it was hard. This time I cut, it doesn't tell you exactly at what point to pull it off the stove. It says as it thickens and bubbles. So because I'm always stirring it constantly, I don't always think I notice when it's bubbling. So I didn't stir it so aggressively as I usually do, and I noticed it was bubbling sooner than what I maybe would have thought. And then I added the lemon juice per the directions and let it go another minute, and I have to say it is a much nicer consistency. Like when I did the blueberry pie filling, I was having to scrape it into the jars off of this ladle. It wasn't falling out on its own. You know what? I know I had said I was going to give them a little more headspace than what I'm doing. So hold on, I gotta shut the burner off. So yeah, I think only these 7 will fit in my canner. You'll want to make sure you clean your rims really, really well before you put your lid on, because even using this funnel, I can see that I got sticky on almost every jar rim just from moving the funnel from one jar to the next, because it is syrupy, sticky good. There's at least 2 jars left in there. Might be a little bit more. I'm pushing these down, as you've seen, partway through, just to eliminate needing to debubble at the end. It's just easier to get all of this in there really sound while I'm doing it. So I'm going to move these a little bit because I'm going to grab a few more jars and go ahead and get them filled. Just so I can put as many in there as what will fit. I think it will just be the 7, but if I'm surprised that an 8th one fits in there, that's great. I'll have it ready to go. I know 9 won't fit. And I do have a bigger canner, but it's outside in the loft, and I was being lazy. Like it needs a little more liquid. Let me see if I can get a little extra of just the goo in there. Less apple, more goo. It smells so good. I wish you guys could smell it. That cinnamon just, oh, I don't know what smells better. I gotta say, it's making me feel like I'm ready for fall. The weather was a little cloudy and cool yesterday, and I thought kind of felt like a fall day. You know, I think I still have another jar's worth in here for sure. So I might actually think about cleaning this out, putting it on the stove with my silicone trivet in the bottom, and getting another canner going. Let's see, because that would be 3 jars. That might be worth going ahead and running another canner. since these won't stay that hot while this is coming up to temperature, I will probably get this pot rinsed out and put hot water in it, put these jars in it, and bring it to a boil with them in there so they do not, you want to put your jars in the same temperature water that your canner is. So like these jars are really hot because the contents are hot. This one might be a little bit shy, but I might be able to steal a bit out of some other ones. I usually always end up with one that I mark as like ice cream topping because maybe it has more of the dew and less fruit, so I wouldn't necessarily want it to be a pie. Yeah, like this one is not actually completely full, so I will not put that on the shelf. I am going to process it, but it will I'll put it on the I'll process it. It probably will still seal, but I will put it in the fridge and just use it sooner rather than later. I am going to get a rag wet with some hot water. For our rims. Oh, that is really hot. Woo. Hot, hot, hot. Okay, I put this off for a really long time. It's really not that bad. It's just time consuming with peeling the apples. There are people who don't peel them. The preferred practice is to peel them. The skins can harbor bacteria. The argument, of course, is that the canning does kill that bacteria, and in all honesty, it probably very well does, but the tested, approved method is peeled. So we peeled them, plus it is just what my family prefers. They don't really like the skin on, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind the skin. Actually, when I do a fresh apple pie, I will sometimes leave the skin on. But my family prefers no skin, and I want them to enjoy my finished product. Okay. Show you one kind of close up without burning. Actually, the way the sun's coming through the window, isn't that pretty? That is really nice. I'm happy with how that has turned out so far. Let's see if I have any lids up here. I have a few. Let's see. I don't think I have enough. I'm gonna have to go clean up some more. Hold on, I'll be back after I wash more lids. Did that stop? I don't know if that glitched. I'm gonna go wash lids, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with clean lids. Again, most modern lids now, you used to have to not boil them, but keep them in hot water. It, I think, made the rubber gasket part soft. Most companies now don't say you need to do that step, but there are still a few that do, so make sure you read the instructions on your box of lids and do what it says, not what anything else says, because they know their product, and you'll have the greatest success if you do what they say. Alright. So I actually took the lid off of my canner because Those are really warm, but they're not boiling. And I do not want thermal shock breaking my jars. So I actually took the lid off. It's still on a simmer, but it's not like rapidly boiling. And I will put these in there, bring them back up to a boil, and then I will start my 30-minute timer. Alright, I will bring you back here when these are coming out. Okay, I've got 7 jars in there, the others in there. I'm just waiting for them both to come to a full rolling boil, and I will start the clock for 30 minutes at that time. Okay, we are here for a very quick Every Bit Counts challenge video. I had said I wanted to try to do things a little bit different than all the other content creators make, and I wanted to think of food preservation in different ways. And one of the ways that I was thinking is very much just as important as anything else is seed saving. So my husband had brought in these onion blooms, and they are very much dry and ready to have the seeds taken out of them for next year's planting. So I am just going to shake them over this brown paper bag to try to get as many of those seeds out as we can. There's still some in there, and there is some bloom in here, but I can separate that easily enough. The dried flower petals. And then, let me put these in a container so I can show you what we end up with. These were Walla Walla sweets that we actually planted last year. But onions are like a, what's the word I'm looking for? A biennial. So they will flower one year and then go to seeds. So, I mean, there's still some petals in there, dried petals, but those will come right out. But we got a whole bunch of seed. That is enough to grow as many Walla Wallas as we would want to grow next year. I do see that there is still some more in here, so I will give it another shake in the bag. And that is what I am doing today. I am busy, but it counts. This is, like I said, just as much a part of our future food preservation as anything else that we do in this kitchen. Hey there. Okay, today we are going to shred some zucchini for the freezer. I just realized I had out everything except a knife. Hold on. I will be measuring it out in 2-cup portions because that is the measurement I need for zucchini bread, which is what I will be using this for. And that will be easy peasy kitchen project for today. This is going to be loud, so excuse that. We've been enjoying zucchini, you know, fresh. My husband likes to slice it lengthwise and season it up with some of our favorite meat rubs, and he puts it on the grill that way. Of course, zucchini casserole. he requested a couple of times. So, you know, we're getting to where it's like, okay, let's go ahead and get some up for summer. We've enjoyed it fresh. Pretty full. Let me go ahead and measure out a couple bags here and before we put the bigger one in there. So I go ahead, and even though I've done this as a rule of thumb in 2-cup measures for years, I still write on here that it's 2 cups of zucchini shred and the year. I'm actually not going to take this off. The housing of this food processor broke, which is kind of devastating, and I'm still within my return window to take it back to Costco. I just haven't done it yet, and I am able to nurse it to get it along, so I've just been doing that, but I am going to have to get it returned and get a new one because it's quite the process to get it all to line up right. Alright. And then I just try to squeeze as much air out as I can. I like to lay it, squish it kind of flat. It stacks in my freezer better. It freezes faster and it thaws faster as well. So yeah, just like that. Let's see if I've got enough here for another one. Years ago, I made this zucchini onion pie, and it was so good. And I have not been able to find the recipe for it. I have searched, I have found similar recipes, but not the exact same one. But I did remember I had a friend ask for it, and so I think if I maybe go back and look at my emails between her and I might be able to find it. That would be nice. It was just it was so savory and so delicious. It was really, really good. Let me rinse my hand a little bit. So I don't actually know what day this is as far as the Every Bit Counts challenge. I've been doing it a thing each day. I'm going to be posting 7 or 8 days worth by the time this posts, so I don't know which that will be and how they're going to be spliced together. But I don't think in any of them I have mentioned our Sandor Katz Fermentation Journeys book giveaway. I will attach the video that you enter that giveaway in the comment section of this video. You will then go to that video, you will subscribe to our channel, you will like that video, and you will leave a comment. I will use Comment Shark to pick a comment at random on September 1st to choose the winner. So you will want to get in on that, especially if you're into fermentation or wanting to get into fermentation. Fermentation is really cool because I don't have the exact numbers. I will find those numbers because I've already had decided I wanted to do a video about this. The nutrition values of different food preservation methods. You know, in almost every method, a little bit of nutrition is lost. You know, X amount is lost in canning, X amount is lost in freeze drying, X amount is lost in dehydrating. But fermentation is one of the only, or it might be the only, food preservation method that can actually gain nutrition. It actually changes the compounds of the food. It can make it more nutritious. It's kind of a cool thing. I'm fairly new to it, probably the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I've always liked sourdough, which of course is fermentation, but I had never been really a sauerkraut person. I didn't like sauerkraut. Well, I didn't realize I just don't like commercial sauerkraut. My sauerkraut is amazing, and I can pull it and stop the fermentation process anytime I want, so I can keep it crispy, which is really nice. It doesn't have to be soggy, stinky sauerkraut. And then the fermented beverages I really like, you know, the kvass, the water kefir. I've tried kombucha. I didn't care for it, but it's obviously very popular among most people. Just not for me. Lacto-fermented pickles. One of my very favorite things is jalapeno carrots that are fermented. So, and all of those things are more nutritious now than when I put them in the jar. So fermentation is amazing. I highly recommend you at least dabble and look into it. The more strains of those good and healthy bacteria and yeasts that you can get, the better. You do want to introduce them slowly, because if your body's not used to it, it will react. But you know, if you can get in, you know, a strain with your sourdough and another strain with a beverage or a fermented tea or whatever, and then maybe some relish or sauerkraut and some pickles. There are just so many ways to get ferments into your system, and they are so, so beneficial. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get this going again and finish this up. My husband's not too disappointed. I do think he actually wanted to save one of those to have on the grill tonight with our, he's going to make ribeye tonight, and I think he wanted one for that, but I got the food processor out, so I am just shredding all of it. He won't complain once I'm making bread. He won't complain at all once I'm making bread. Actually, his only complaint regarding zucchini so far is that I haven't made bread yet, so he'll be happy. In fact, when I told him I was doing this, he asked if I was making bread, and I told him not today, and he was kind of bummed, but I made a blackberry pie, so that redeemed myself. So with my recipe, each of these bags of 2 cups of zucchini will make 2 loaves. My recipe makes 2 loaves at a time. So it looks like we'll have enough to make 8 loaves here, and you know, it's only mid-August. The zucchini will still be coming for a while. Alright, I think this is going to do it. So this is day whatever of the Every Bit Counts challenge. I think this will be posted either on the 23rd or 24th, but it will be for days 16 through the 23rd or 24th. So there should be lots of good content with it, hopefully. Alright, I think that's going to do it for today. Be sure to check out that other video so you can enter our giveaway. working. Hey there. So we are going to go ahead and make some Salsa Verde as part of our Every Bit Counts challenge because I've got a bunch of tomatillos ready to go. I am going to be using my food processor for most of the chopping. Hopefully that will make it so I'm not crying because of the onions. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I have the recipe from the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and I am just going to cut the stem end out of these tomatillos and just kind of quarter them and stick them in the food processor just to help, because I do want just kind of a rough chop. I'm not looking for a puree. And we need 5.5 cups, I believe. 5 cups. We need 5 cups of chopped tomatillos. Some recipes will tell you specifically not to use a food processor. Tomato things especially can get really frothy and airy, making it kind of questionable how safe they may be if they're taking up a lot more space due to like air than volume. But this, I'm not too worried about it doing that because we're going to cook it for about 20 minutes before it even goes in jars. So any air should work its way out in that process, if they even get frothy like tomatoes do. I have not actually worked that much with tomatillos, and this recipe actually says you can use green tomatoes in place of the tomatillos if you like. Some of my tomatillos are a little riper than I would probably prefer. They're starting to get more yellow than green, but it's supposed to just make them sweeter and less tangy. It says you can add a little more lemon or lime juice if you like to keep that tang in there. I will just give it a taste and see what we think. I've got a lot of peppers in here too, so I'm trying to dig out the greenest tomatillos to use them up first, because I questioned whether I had enough, but now I'm thinking I have way more than enough. And then the other things that are going in here are some chilies, some jalapenos, some onion, lemon or lime juice, garlic, and then cumin and oregano are optional. I am not going to opt in for either of those things. I want just a really nice fresh flavor profile that doesn't have a lot of additional things added. I was really kind of wanting to make a green enchilada sauce, and I couldn't find a good, safe home canning recipe to do that. But then I realized there have been times I have used green salsa in place of green enchilada sauce, and so I'm hoping I can just do that, and that this will serve that purpose, because that is one of the few things canned that I still buy at the store. And if you want to get one that the ingredients are clean, it gets really expensive. If you can find one at all. So I'm going to pretty much, the fill line on this is 9 cups. I am guessing it's going to take about that much for it to be 5 cups by the time it is chopped. few purple tomatillos too, and they were ready. The husk was splitting and they were full, but they are, for whatever reason, a lot harder to peel. They do not just slip out of the husks. I don't know if that's common for the difference in the color and variety, or if I did have them planted in a different location and they probably didn't get quite as much water. So I don't know if it was something like that. If you have experience with both and or either kind of tomatillos and know the answer to that question, feel free to drop it in the comment section below, because I am curious. I haven't worked a lot with tomatillos. I've done some fresh application stuff, but this will be the first time I've canned with them. In prior years, if I would have done this challenge, well, I have done this challenge in prior years, but I wasn't making YouTube videos at all, so it was just a challenge for our own benefit, and that alone, and that was fine. But it was a lot more canning than what I'm doing this year. I have a lot on the shelf already, and I'm trying to get us to work through it before adding a lot more. So I'm really, really trying to focus on only adding things that we don't already have. Like, we were out of pie filling, so we did pie filling. I don't have any Salsa Verde, so making that. I just realized I left my little compost bin outside after I emptied it. I hosed it out and it's still sitting out there drying, so I don't have it to put all my scraps in right now. Let's see. Alright, I think, let's see, I'm trying to get all the really green ones, because that's what you're really after. Okay. We'll just start a scrap bowl. I'm gonna have to set it over here. Alright, let me give this a quick chop and we will see how much we have. This is the Ninja Deluxe Kitchen System. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but that pulsing, it did on its own when I put it on the chop setting. Okay, I'm actually going to put on some gloves because the next thing we're going to do is going to be the peppers. And I'm trying to not take this off the base because the housing is stripped out and it takes a lot of effort to get it realigned back up. So let's just see if I can do it without taking that off. Almost 4 cups. I think this is going to be just about perfect because we're at 4 cups now and it looks like there is about a cup left in here. So I am just going to call that good. And And anything that's left in here, when I do the very last thing, I will take it off and I will get all this juice and chunks and all of that out of there at that time. All right. So there's our tomatillos. Next is 1.5 cups of chopped long green chili peppers. I don't have those, so I am going to just use an assortment of other chilies I do have. It does say to seed them, so I will remove the seeds. So that was a gypsy pepper. This is an ancho chili. I thought it would lend nice flavor and color since we're going for green here. It has a nice dark green to it. And then this is just a bell pepper. I'm going to throw it in there too. We are not looking for a lot of heat in this salsa. We just want some nice flavor. I do have an assortment of jalapenos that will also go in here because it does call for a 1/2 cup of finely chopped jalapenos. But the jalapeno is as hot as we're gonna go. Let's see. This is another ancho. Okay. Since we only need 1.5 cups, let's see where this gets us. I'm going to set it to the chop setting, and then so it pulses and does everything on its own. Put this in our scrap bowl. Alright, let's see where that got us. So probably what I'll do is this will stay as chunks for salsa. But if I wanted to use it as enchilada sauce, I can always puree it when I'm getting ready to use it. All right, that is just about perfect. All right, and now 1/2 cup of the jalapenos. Now, I have a few different varieties of jalapeno. I've got these, and then I've got 3 different varieties out there that are long and skinny, more like a serrano. They're probably going to be kind of a pain to seed because I do think it says to seed these too. Yeah, seed the jalapenos. And like I said, since we are not going for a lot of heat, we will go ahead and take the seeds out. Seeds and the membrane, we will get those removed. And we're only looking for a half a cup. For this. And then we'll move on to the onions and garlic. And I'm really hoping I'll be able to get through this without crying doing it in the food processor. Did I say this recipe was from the National Center for Food Home Preservation? It is, if I hadn't said that yet. So that's available online. It's a free resource. It's a trusted resource. All of their recipes are tested and approved, safe. Okay, these jalapenos are kind of horrible. They don't have seeds, so, but they have a lot of pith, a lot of that membrane. Alright, hopefully we'll see what happens. They don't smell that hot, so maybe we'll be okay. It was the first time I had grown this variety. I don't even remember what kind they are, but I could not find like conventional jalapenos this year. I don't know why. But I had a friend who starts a lot of stuff from seed, and she had a whole bunch of jalapenos, various kinds. So I got, I think, 5 different kinds from her. But none of them are ones I am familiar with, so we'll see. Alright, we only need a half a cup of these, so let's see how we do. That was the dough setting, not the chop setting. And that's probably enough since I did the first blast on dough. Okay, so let's see. We only needed a half cup. I've got more than a half cup here. And that's a big chunk. Okay, they don't smell super hot, so I'm hoping we're okay. Okay, then we need, it's quite a lot of onion. 4 cups of chopped onion. So if I can get these chopped and in there, I'll be doing good. If I can do that without crying, we will be in business. This is one of those recipes that's really nice. Everything, including the garlic, is coming from the garden. The lemon juice will be store-bought, which would be the case even if we lived someplace we could grow lemons. These are Walla Walla sweets. They're not really a storage onion. And earlier in this challenge, I had said that my husband was wanting to save them for fresh eating, but we had noticed that some of them were already starting to get soft. So he said, go ahead and use them because it's better to use them than let them go to waste. So they are going into this, and I can already feel my eyes starting to cry. Hopefully I can get these last couple chopped and in there before I full on ugly cry for y'all. Let's see where this gets us. Once again, I'll put this on chop. See how we did on that measurement. We are looking for 4 cups. Oh, I think we have plenty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. See, this part is supposed to stay attached to this, and it does not anymore. Okay, that is just about perfect. I did a pretty good job at guesstimating. I did wash up a lot more tomatillos than I needed for our batch, though. Oh, it's gonna make a liar of me. Normally I have to find the exact spot where the screws line up to make that happen. Okay. So this goes in there. I'm going to take off these gloves. Oh, the garlic. Forgot about the garlic. Well, you know what? Since that went back on, do I want to do the garlic in there? Probably not. I was going to do it with the onions, but since it's just the garlic, I will probably just do it here. So we want 6 cloves. Used any of this garlic yet. This was some garlic that we grew ourselves, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to peel. We will see. So I normally will just cut off the little point where it connects to the bulb, and then just kind of crush it with my knife, and that helps release a lot of the papery skin. And I'm going to go ahead and put this whole head in there. It's, the recipe called for 6 cloves. There's actually 9 here, but it's kind of relative because it doesn't say what size. And I don't consider these large cloves by any means, so I'm going to put them in there. We like garlic. This will be acidified with lemon juice, which will make it safe. So, yeah, so see how I did that, and then the garlic just slips right out. If you want to leave the cloves whole, obviously that doesn't work, but since I'm going to chop these anyways, it works just fine. don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. It's my husband. He's watching TV. All right. Now I'll just give those a chop. All right. Let me give my hands a rinse. That garlic was really sticky. And I think we needed some salt and pepper anyways. And lemon juice. I don't think I have enough here, but I believe I have another bottle in the pantry. It is 1 cup. Lemon or lime? I don't know if I have lime. I do have some lime. Let's use that because I think that would be better anyways. All right. Okay, so that goes in there. And then a tablespoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Any salt besides iodized table salt is what you want for your canning. They make salt specific for canning and pickling salts. You of course can use those, but if you use a pure salt, a mineral salt, sea salt, even a non-iodized table salt, it's fine. Just not the iodized. It has anti-caking things in it that are weird for canning. Okay, I think that is all for this step. I will get this stirred up, and then it is going to go on the stove on high heat till it begins to boil. I will reduce it, simmer it for 20 minutes, and then it will go into our hot, clean jars, and then it will process in a hot water bath for 20 minutes for my elevation. So I will bring you back probably for when I'm jarring it up. Okay, so we're back. This has simmered for 20 minutes. Smells really good. Doesn't smell too spicy. Actually, let's give it a taste. Okay. Ooh, that's good. It's a little tart. That's the tomatillo. But I like it. I think it's going to be good. So these jars are warm. They just came out of the sanitized cycle on the dishwasher. And on these we are looking for a 1/2 inch headspace. And this recipe says it should make 5 pint jars. We'll see. I always do an extra one, but I'm actually not sure this is going to make 5. But I always feel like usually it's goes the other way and I makes more than what a recipe says. Yeah, I think because I can actually put a little bit more in some of these. I think we're just going to get 4 really nice jars. And a little bit left over for us to just enjoy. I might have to go get some chips or something to have with it. But I'll go ahead and dump it in here just to, actually, no, it's not even that much. I'm not going to put it in there. I'll just put it in one of my little 1-cup containers up here because it's not very much. Wipe off my rim. And the hot water canner is ready to receive these. And they will hot water bath for 20 minutes at my elevation. And I like how this tastes, so I think I have enough tomatillos washed and ready to make another batch. So this might be, I might make the same thing tomorrow for the next day of our challenge here, because I am happy with how it turned out. I would make it right now, but it is dark outside and I don't have enough peppers picked. I have enough out there, but I don't have them picked. So we might just do a repeat of this recipe tomorrow. Alright, I'm going to get these in the canner and I will bring you back when they're done. Sorry, I don't know why this is, oh, there we go. Gotta turn it on. Alright, these are coming out. They look great. That ping is what you want to hear. That is pretty much one of my favorite sounds next to children laughing and guinea pigs. So these 4 will hopefully all seal. Actually, it looks like they already have. So these were a success. I will leave them here untouched for at least 12 hours. And I might follow up with a second batch tomorrow. For now, have a good day.